What's up, Reject Nation? I'm Greg.
And I'm John.
With DC Fandome coming up in a few weeks, Snyder Cut trailer supposedly coming out. That's what Zack Snyder's saying. I figured, you know what would be fun to do is do some revisiting of what led up to Justice League originally, starting with everything great about Man of Steel from the awesome channel CinemaWins. We actually covered our first CinemaWins video a couple months ago. We got hit up by the man himself. Very, very endearing, positive, loving Twitter message exchange. So how's it going, buddy? Thank you for having our back on covering your video.
Being so lovely.
We have our nice mics right now. When time allows for it, we'll try to use these a little bit more often. I just felt like using them today. We'll switch back to these when we're reviewing what CinemaWins is talking about. Anywho, let's get into it.
Gotta say, the weird 3D magnetic liquid stuff is a unique piece of imagined tech.
Sir, is everything all right?
I said...
Carla Cugino to the rescue!
Yeah.
This is the moment I realized Snyder wasn't using slow-mo. He definitely would have used it there. I imagine Nolan producing must have played a part. Krypton is a visually well-developed world. Unexplained advanced technology, distinct architecture, fantasy-like animals the Kryptonians keep as pets, and arrogant self-righteous inhabitants. And the carvings on the codex give us a sense that there's an extensive history to this world. That's what you get for messing with Maximus.
Yeah.
Are you not entertained?
That's what you get for messing with Cinderella.
Guys, we were so cool.
Krypton's future!
This version of Zod is another villain with a purpose. We'll see throughout that he's not just twirling his mustache trying to win world domination or settle a personal vendetta, mostly. He's just concerned with the future of his species. This is a pretty great wormhole transportation thing they've built, like nothing I've ever seen. The destruction of Krypton is done masterfully and believably. Zimmer, do I hear a little Interstellar score in there? Or I guess I heard some Man of Steel score in Interstellar? Either way, the entire score is beautiful, especially Superman's new theme. Nice touch to have the Man of Steel be a placeholder for an actual piece of steel. Also, just wind. Seagull struggling in the wind? A little foreshadowing, methinks? Not that the size of Soup's muscles has anything to do with his strength, but it's nice to finally see a shredded and imposing force that is Henry Cavill.
And chest hair.
Snyder said he really wanted to pretend like this is the first Superman film and not take anything for granted. That being said, I think he and Goyer did a phenomenal job of keeping the Smallville teen part of this story brief, and the segues to both flashbacks are seamless.
You were sent here for
Yeah, that's fair.
What a perfect example of humanity's narcissism to interpret two parents sending their child off their planet to save him from death as an answer to our problems and not the other way around.
You are my son.
This has to be the best Pa Kent we've gotten to date, no?
I agree.
Sure, Clark seems mild-mannered, but seriously, he's still as wide as a door. Come on. But Clark gets a restraint win. Alright, I take the restraint win back, but I'll replace it with 2 manners lessons wins. Okay, this can't be a coincidence. Hilo, now Gata, in not 1 but 2 Snyder movies? Zach has to be a Battlestar Galactica fan. Helping a new friend.
That's a scotch straight up for the lady.
Great drink order and a great mustache on Bizarro Daniel.
Yeah.
The Superman suit is handled perfectly. It isn't worshipped, it's barely even explained. Just a symbol. It just is. And it's still as impactful as ever. This entire scene. Superman gets a stunning visual introduction while his powers are explained and teased, and Hans Zimmer gives us all goosebumps.
Already getting nipple chills.
That moment right there, when he realizes, what if I just
That
push
smile.
a little harder?
Yeah.
His excitement is perfect. His childlike learning to walk for the first time. He reminds us that he's just a Kansas farm boy who found out he could fly. An indestructible Kansas boy, but a Kansas boy nonetheless. There's never been this much power behind Superman. So I'm starting to think that Snyder's compromise on no slow-mo was snap zooms. But it's cool. I freaking love it. Yep, that's about as cool as flying gets. As misguided as Pa Kent's reasoning may have been, he still sacrificed himself for his son. So you know what that means. Also, death sucks. But this is the second of 2 very tastefully done deaths, the first being Lara. I get why they had Henry do so many pained yells. He really sells it. I didn't know Doug Stamper could even smile.
You are not alone.
Genuinely creepy alien invasion is a welcome change for a Superman conflict.
You just have to decide what kind of man you want to grow up to be, Clark.
There's a pretty clear anti-bullying message in this movie, which is great. I'm just not sure how it applies to anyone who isn't Superman. Such a sick reveal. Steelman? I'm not exactly sure how dream sharing works for Kryptonians, but since Zod seems to be running the show, I assume he's in control. Assuming that assumption, I love that he puts Clark in human clothes. Serves two purposes. I know who you really are, and I'm superior to you. Exactly what a military leader would do.
That's a good point.
He's still the most powerful Superman we've ever had, but still has the ability to be gentle. Perfect mix. Also, more flawless wire work from Snyder. Now begins the place people start really complaining. Superman starts destroying everything with no concern for human life. Here's the thing, though. We all have this feeling like Superman has been Supermaning for 7 decades, because for us, he has. But this is his first fight. Literally the first time he's punched anyone. He just barely started testing out his powers. Of course he's going to be a bull in a china shop. Also, and possibly more importantly, Zod just trashed his parents' house and threatened his mother. Sorry, he's going to be a little unhinged.
I love that moment where he's like jacking up. I love that.
After all. Also, in his defense, he destroyed a smokestack and a gas station and then tells people to
get inside. It's not safe.
It's the stupid Americans who start shooting up Smallville. Well, and Zod's crew. Faster than a speeding bullet.
This is a great fight. Great fight.
Son of hell.
Feora is the real menacing villain here. So calm and collected. Who cares if they're destroying everything? This fight is amazing.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
Badass bad girl. In addition to the snap zooms, Snyder traded slow-mo for these speed-ups.
Yeah.
The story is Zack Snyder hates things at normal speed, but Feora...
Look how great that is. It's like an anime.
Very.
A locomotive? Yep.
This man is not our enemy.
Come on, you all got a little choked up.
Colonel Nathan Hardy.
Wait, where's the TIE fighter?
This ship is powered by something called a phantom drive. It bends space.
And the flux capacitor is what makes time travel possible. Got it.
Yeah.
You win, Zimmer. You win. Maybe there's no reason for this to work, but sheer force of will has always been Superman's strongest asset. Also, saving Earth.
If you destroy this ship, you destroy Krypton!
Zod is a villain, but his motivations aren't evil. He's a villain with some real depth.
Krypton had its chance!
All the talk of free will and choosing your own destiny comes to a head right here as Superman chooses Earth over Krypton. Yep. Again with the unconventional flying. I don't think I've ever seen someone start flying from the face down position.
Oh yeah, good call. Lex Core.
Yes, good guy. You better not let us down, Jesse Eisenberg.
I was bred to be a warrior, Cal. Trained my entire life.
And that line should really be enough to shut up all the critics. Superman had no training. He's a newborn superhero. Obviously, he was going to break some buildings. The flying in this movie is done better than ever before as well. You get a real sense of super speed and agility. But that's why you don't wear a cape. You better not let us down, Ben Affleck. Complain all you want about the destruction of Metropolis. This is one of the best fight scenes ever put to media. It has actual hand-to-hand combat on the ground, combined with flying, throwing, hand-to-hand combat in the air, and even a space battle. And it's filmed in a very fresh way. And now we come to the final reason this film gets so much hate. Personally, I think it's right in line with what this film is about. The free will of a mortal, albeit unbreakable man. A man that seeks out religious advice when he's unsure. A man who doesn't believe himself to be a god the way all Kryptonians do. A grounded, flawed, new man who tries to change the outcome but ultimately has to choose to end Zod's life to do what he believes is right.
She's talking
Were there
about
other
what
options?
David S. Goyer just
Possibly,
talked about.
But Zod promised he'd never
Talk
stop.
about that in their discussion
And
part.
Superman took the only course of action he deemed just. A bold statement that upset lots of people, but this isn't your grandfather's Superman. And it clearly weighs heavily on him.
I grew up in Kansas, General. I'm about as American as it gets.
The Superman exists, and he is American.
Your shoulders would be able to bear the weight.
Yeah, Atlas ain't got nothing on Clark.
Yeah, he's got big
They
shoulders.
stuck a Superman pose in there after all.
Welcome to the planet.
This movie is ultimately an origin story for Clark Kent, and I have no problem with Lois knowing his identity right from the get. It happens eventually anyway, so get on with
And
it,
it
right?
feels a lot more
As most
believable.
films usually do, at least recently, Man of Steel received overwhelmingly positive reviews upon its release. And then slowly but surely, the haters started creeping out of the woodwork. Is this a perfect film that should go down as the best superhero film of all time? Not necessarily.
Yes.
But the flaws that have been complained about are mostly less than nitpicking. Jonathan Kent's death was tough, but it made sense within the confines of the movie. The utter destruction in the final battle was nothing more than an honest depiction of two unbreakable beings trying to break each other amongst breakable things.
Yeah.
Superman wasn't negligent. He was outnumbered, outmatched, and he'd just learned to fly like, what, a few weeks before having to save the Earth? Besides all that, Snyder wanted there to be a high death toll. He wanted Zod's attack to have some gravity to it, pun intended. DC's universe is not the MCU. Superman has been a Boy Scout for the last 70 years. Aren't we ready to see him be grounded in a little more reality? We all resoundingly agreed that Nolan's Batman was what we wanted. We're in the golden age of comic book movies because of it. Iron Man set up a spectacular world for the Avengers. Man of Steel did not fall short of doing the same for the Justice League. And since we're liable to hit saturation point within the next
When
few
did this video
years,
come out?
I'm glad the DCEU is going in a different direction than the MCU. Not every cast was perfect, but Michael Shannon's Zod is fully competent even if he was outshined by Ansha Trau's Feora. Man, she's awesome. Ma and Pa Kent definitely met, if not surpassed, every other representation of those characters. And Henry Cavill is about as soups as we can ask for, especially in this new universe where he's a growing, learning, conflicted real character. This portrayal of Superman
Last
is different from
Temptation
any
of Christ
Superman
style.
film.
Last
He's not
Temptation
perfect.
of Clark.
His choices have consequences, and I believe that the choices he made in this movie will go on to affect every film in the DCEU. Hans Zimmer's score in this film is phenomenal. The villain's theme puts you on edge, and Superman's theme added a feeling of new beginnings and anticipation to the triumphant score of the past. Other than that, I have no worries about Dawn of Justice. I have complete confidence that Nolan, Snyder, and Goyer won't let us down. Now, Batfleck could be a different story. But he's pulled out.
Wow, this came out 2016 in March.
And, well, Good Will Hunting, I guess? But what's really more Damon? Armageddon? Pearl Harbor? Reindeer Games? Geely? Never mind, we're screwed.
I just think he's kind of hot.
Next week we'll watch his BVS one.
See if he retracted any of these statements.
Probably he's the kind who would if he really does feel like what he anticipated he was wrong about.
He's an honest cat.
He's an honest guy.
That's
He's an open-minded guy too.
Yeah.
That was great. Ah, so cool.
Makes me just want to go right back and watch Man of Steel again.
Let's get the mics on.
Well, this is fascinating to do because doing some quick research, this came out March 25th, 2016, the day this video was published. So obviously he was spending some time writing it, prepping it. BVS came out March 25th, 2016. So he published this the day that Batman v Superman came out. We're now in 2020 of July, and it's so fascinating to see the trajectory, specifically with not just the DC universe, but Zack Snyder, the association with that. Because Man of Steel, he's right. It was mainly positive reception. Then it had backlash, and now, especially this year, there's like seems to be this really big uprising for like it's so underrated, you know. And so this movie alone has had just this one has had an interesting trajectory, what it stands for, and the kind of quality of film that it is. I love checking this out because I actually never saw his DC ones that he's done in the past. A couple things I want to talk about, some things that stood out to me that he pointed out that are usually not the forefront of my mind, or things I haven't really been like, oh yeah, that's true. Of course, Zod dying, and I want to switch to what David S. Goyer was talking about recently at the beloved hailed Comic-Con.
Oh yeah, great success.
First off, with some of the technical things that he brought up in this video, Zack Snyder holding back on slow-mo and instead having a lot of speed up and snap zooms, the best use of flying. On a technical scale, for like the action sequences alone, I got to give it to Man of Steel for the best use of flying. Like, I really loved how he pointed at that moment where Superman's laying on the ground and slowly levitates up. It feels very real, and I don't understand physics. I don't understand all that crap, but I felt like at least the visual effects and stunt team department were trying to apply some level of that with this movie.
Yeah, because especially when you're like zipping through the city behind him and you're like up in the air. There are a lot of flying and disembodied cameras in these kinds of movies that feel very unreal and very unachievable, but there's something about the physics with which they captured his flight, especially in some of the more intense sequences, and using some of those speed ramps or snap zooms and stuff like that really just make it feel that much more authentic. And like maybe somebody was controlling a drone or like a little helicopter behind him or something like that, even just the way the camera's going to circle back. I thought they did a nice job thinking about that, and it's good to be reminded of that because so much of the flight stuff kind of gets lumped in with the parts of the movie that people have more problems with, and I think it's easy to overlook how technically great. And he even pointed out like some of the wire work and stuff like that is really pristine.
I think the whole Smallville fight is incredible. That's probably my favorite fight, other than No Man's Land. That's probably my and the BVS warehouse. Basically, it's the top three.
Right. One from each different movie.
The Smallville fight specifically, like I love the little details of when Superman's like trying to escape, and one of them, I can't remember exactly if it was Feora or the other guy who like keeps pulling him back down, you know,
grabbing him by the legs and the cape and stuff,
and just the whip pans that he does. It feels like you're watching an anime, and it he really seemed to ask himself what he could do with the action sequences that we haven't seen done before yet with Superman. Superman, and he brought it to life in a completely different way. We're used to powers like super speed and super strength specifically, and he was able to show us a brand new way of capturing it that could be very visceral, exciting, refreshing. For Superman action, Man of Steel has down the best, I think. One thing that I really had a big takeaway with this specific video, how much there's additional lived-in rich storytelling just with the visual elements alone. Things I just never picked up on. Was Zod's dream sequence.
Oh yeah, and the clothing that Superman's in and all that, and that sort of like military general thinking of, I'm gonna size you up and portray you because I know the core of you and I can use that to belittle you.
Exactly. Like I never picked up on that little kind of detail.
Nor did I.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I think understanding those kind of elements do enhance it. The death of Jonathan Kent, he didn't really do much to sway me here in this video specifically. The death of Jonathan Kent, it didn't really bother me when I first watched it. I was wrapped up in the meaning of it, in the moment, and the sacrifice. All the things that Zack Snyder wanted you to care about, I was thinking about that when I was watching the movie the first couple times, to say the least. When I look back on it, I am like, I think Clark could have gotten there. He's super fast.
Yeah, I think he could have. And I think that as far as this movie goes, that is maybe one element that I haven't really been able to rectify, is especially like Pa Kent and just the philosophy that he puts toward Clark throughout the movie. I'm a little bit iffy on, and I think the movie could have done maybe a little bit more in that department to flesh it or explain it or put some character nuance on top of it.
Just that one moment, I'd say, because I think in terms of the relationship of Jonathan Kent and Clark Kent, I love the way that's fleshed out, and I love Kevin Costner's portrayal of him. Dad, am I still your son? Of course you're my son.
Yeah.
Oh my God, just gets me every time.
Yeah.
And also, I'm really glad he shouted out Feyre Uwe. She is really menacing.
MVP of the Zod squad.
And also with Zod being a true villain, someone who has legit motivation. They always say the best kind of villain is someone who doesn't view themselves as a bad guy. He's not. You really could do a version of this story that solely captures it from his perspective. You get his perspective, it's being told to you. The movie's not captured from his side of the story, but you could do a version where he is definitely the protagonist of his own story, you know,
and you could just portray it as like, oh man, this guy who's just trying to stick up for the crumbling society that he's just been, you know, orphaned from.
Like, that's his home, and he just had a big set of differences with Jor-El on Krypton. Obviously Zod, he's the bad guy. And one thing I thought to enhance the alien element, he does touch on it briefly in here, but when Zod arrives on Earth and there's the alien invasion takeover scene that's cutting around to the news stations and around the world, while that can be a trope in a lot of movies and such, I actually think it's incredibly effective. Every time I've watched this movie and that scene comes up, it does feel scary and menacing. As much as the movie's like, Clark is an alien, Kal-El, alien. That's when the real debate, I feel like even he could have honed in a little bit harder. Maybe like nowadays, if he made the video now, he may have honed in on it a little bit, because I noticed his videos are longer now. He could have probably honed in a little bit more on how much that amplified the whole alien dichotomy of should we trust Superman or not? Yeah. You know, and I think that alien invasion sequence really sets up a strong deboggle and debate from the human perspective, looking from the outside looking in, comparing Zod, what he's doing, the invasion. You got Kal-El, same race, you know.
you got two different aliens with two different ideologies in the same invasive place.
I mean, yes, that goes to further hone in on, you know, the whole destruction of Metropolis and how like Superman can be looked at as being the problem for it, which segues into BVS.
Since the movie, I have gained a greater appreciation for the second half, because when I first saw it, I kind of preferred the first half, but I do think there is a lot to that, and he does a nice job of articulating how there is so much about Superman that isn't formed and is being formed by this entire experience right now. And yeah, the fact that he is being attacked by a bunch of professionals on his first day at work, you know. And so yeah, I do appreciate in hindsight taking it from that perspective. I think the movie could have maybe done a better job putting you in the shoes of just citizens during all this, but it does kind of realistically go, what if these all-powerful beings just showed up and had a fight here? It probably would look like that. It would probably be
Yeah.
horribly destructive.
I mean, he brings up solid points about like what you were just talking about with Kal-El was just learning how to fly, or I wouldn't even say Kal-El, I would say Clark. Clark was learning just how to fly. This is all brand new to him. It's been a mystery for him his whole life. I have no issues with the Smallville fight at all. And he actually did open up my eyes a lot on the destruction of Metropolis. But the Smallville fight, I'm like, yeah, you know, of course it's all going to shit. Like his mother was just being attacked, his family home thrashed. I love when he's holding down Zod through the crop field and he's just punching him. Like, you hurt my mom. I forget what he says, but I love that moment. And then with the way the fight goes down, it was like, and of course it's going to lead to some crazy destruction like this. You got super powerful beings who are fighting each other. You got one guy who's trying to defend it all. And same thing with Metropolis. And really breaking down, he doesn't have the skill set. He doesn't have all of this yet. And we have ingrained in us as audience members for decades of what Superman should be like, what he should be aware of, what he should be mindful of during battle sequences like this. But he's got a lot on his mind at the moment, you know?
Well, and as much as across, you know, his DCEU films, I haven't always loved what Zack Snyder does with this stuff. I do think that I have warmed up to his perspective on the harshness of these stories, especially when doing new adaptations, because, you know, it was a big deal when everyone's like, oh, not my Batman, he's killing people and stuff. Going to the next snap, I thought that was another moment where, especially looking at it again, just watching the scene, you can feel that pain and what happens when you have somebody who makes it clear to you, I'm never going to stop, you can't imprison me, this is my goal and I'm dedicated to it. As a realization moment of who to be and who not to be, I think that moment is pretty rich, you know, when he snaps Zod's neck and has to, it's almost like a with great power comes great responsibility moment in a way, but with way more, you know, intergalactic heft upon it.
I've never taken gripe with it. I've never felt for that side of Superman doesn't kill. Because especially looking at this, the way that was going down, I'm like, well, in the context of the scene, what else could he really
do?
Yeah, the man was never going to stop. And so with that segue in mind, got some screenshots pulled up in between, plugging back in the mics of the interview. If you guys haven't listened to it, it's pretty fascinating, but we're going to strictly focus on the thing that's been circulating the web, where Goyer was talking initially about a possibly different ending, which would have seen Zod frozen in space. And he said the idea was that Superman there was one of those sort of cryopods on the ship that ends up becoming the Fortress of Solitude that is able to put Zod back into and then throw it into space. We did talk about it, and maybe some people would have been happier with that, but it felt like a cop-out for the story that we were telling. Based off of the movie we got, I don't really know how that, maybe the vision for it would have been different. I mean, one part of me goes, oh, it would have been cool to still have Michael Shannon around, though.
Yeah, the possibility of his return.
And there was already some controversy that was met later on with the fact that they take Zod's body and turn him into Doomsday. So you got that. I would have loved to have seen more Michael Shannon Zod. He goes on to say, when he's like defending the choice of killing Zod, he says Superman is not aware of the extent of his powers at all. He's finding somebody who said, I won't stop, who said, you can't put me in a prison, I won't ever stop. We wanted to put him in a stalemate. He was in this terrible position, and then afterwards he vowed that he could never do it again. It didn't come out of anger, he was forced into it, but that was the one. Exactly. You see, right?
You gotta make...
I don't feel like I need to be told this. This makes sense.
And it stands to reason that you would have to make a mistake or a regrettable decision to realize probably what a piece of your morality is about to become.
Yeah, exactly. There's this thing in the article or in the interview where they're talking about how there was a scene they had written, but it wasn't filmed, that dealt with young Clark Kent and Jonathan Kent going hunting and having to kill a deer, dealing with, the powerful thing to take a life, even if you're forced to take a life, that kind of element. And then this article circled back around to the Grace Randolph interview where she was talking with Zack Snyder about the evil Superman. I think it's important to quote it right now for the context of what we're talking about. Do I love the evil Superman? I'm not 100% sure if that's truth. Other than that, I will say I love the idea of Superman going on a journey with his character. I love the idea of Superman having to reconcile his morality, reconcile his place on Earth, reconcile his love affair with Lois, and how that affects the way he relates to humanity and all those things, as we all do with normal relationships we all have in our daily lives. So I think when you see Superman grapple with those things, he becomes a lot more relatable. Thinking about the context of that, where he was going with BVS and what we at least have an idea of what he wanted to do with Superman in Justice League, which we will undoubtedly see in Snyder Cut. Even without thinking about sequels and setting up, the choice never bothered me. I know some purists really hate it and can never get on board with this decision.
Not my Superman.
But to me, I've never had. I've always taken more gripe with him not saving Pa Kent and then that.
Yeah, just because to me it always read as like this is just a different take.
Yeah.
You know, it's not the definitive take. And also, yeah, we've seen a more aspirational, a more perfect Superman in the past.
If it was a human being, it would be a different thing. He was like, snap some human's neck.
He was about to cook a family.
This is essentially Zod in this moment is evil Superman, and you got to put him down.
Yeah. I mean, what happens when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object?
But yeah, I thought this is a great video. It was exciting. Can't wait to check out the BVS one next. All right, guys. Well, everything great about Man of Steel. Has the movie grown on you? Has a lesson in your eyes? You excited for a Snyder Cut? Leave your thoughts down below. Subscribe to The Real Rejects. Click that notification bell to get notified whenever we got a new YouTube video up. Since it's the end of the month, I would like to shout out all our patrons who are pledged for our deleted takes and behind the scenes tier, because there you get a name call out. Javier Gomez,
Ruby,
Gregory Bullock,
Rosie Beatty, Darth Yoda 066,
Natalie Doran,
Jen Smith,
Melanie Fabre,
Kenny Waters,
Justin Martin,
Runar K,
Kayla Waters,
Chase Gardner,
Deontay W, Tongue Punch Fart Box,
LB,
Andrew Barber,
SJ94,
Deflated Brady,
Sam Castle,
James Smith,
Chrissy,
Rokri,
Spencer,
Brianna Davidson,
Philip J. Smith Jr.,
Josh,
James Nobriga,
Marcus Waterman,
Carissa,
Body Rot,
Aaron,
Nicholas,
Kevin J. Coleman,
Joshua Ruiz. Thank you all, you beautiful sons of bitches and bastards.
Thanks, lovelies.
Hope to see you guys next month at our Patreon. And thank you all. Consider joining our Patreon at the beginning of August.
Yeah.
Got some stuff going on there. Woo. See you guys soon.